Hey Facebook, this is Coach Shanelle. We are doing day 10 in the Dream Do Done series. For people who are new to the series, the Dream Do Done series is all about moving you from dreaming to doing. Everybody talks about having big dreams, but a lot of people don't often tell you how to go from where you are currently to achieve those big dreams. And so this series is going to be following along with you each day, giving you some actions and some possible tips to move you along the course of growing into your dreams. And so each day we cover a different topic, something that can allow you to learn, to grow, and to reach outside of your comfort zone and get closer to your dreams. Today we're going to be talking about being true to yourself. For people who are new to the series, I have been uploading the information, each of the videos up to my YouTube channel. So I'll put that information up later on if you want to catch up on the series, or you can always go to my video section and look at the previous videos. And so again, today we're going to talk about being true to yourself. And I wanted to do this because I think it's a really important topic for entrepreneurs and people who are in business, period. And the reason why I say that is it's very easy for you to get caught up in watching what everybody else is doing in their business, especially with social media. Social media offers you the ability to filter your life, right? And we laugh about it because of the filters on social media, and we laugh about how people have these glossy images and how they make life look amazing. And it doesn't mean that they don't have an amazing life, but sometimes social media can allow people to put on a show that may not necessarily be accurate depiction of their life. And so you can filter and show whatever image you want to the outside world, but a lot of people are suffering in silence behind the scenes, right? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about being able to be true to yourself and ignoring some of the other things that are going on. And I will tell you this. I was a person who was always a people pleaser when I was younger. I was a people pleaser. I was always trying to make people happy. I would always try to do the best job that I could do. I would try to do it really fast and make sure that everybody was happy. I didn't like for people to be unhappy. I still don't like for people to have infighting in organizations. And so I was always trying to figure out what the problem was and seeing how I could be the one to fix it, and learning things really quickly, and trying to make sure that I was always there and available to hear what people were going through, and being that listening ear, and being able to solve everyone's problems. And what I found was, as I started to navigate through different environments, being a people pleaser, you get to the point where you're so responsive to other people's needs that you start to lose pieces of yourself along the way. And so I had gotten so far removed and off course from the things that were important to me, because I would lay everything to the side and drop them, trying to help everyone else. And I believe that it comes from an honest place of wanting to be of service, of wanting to help others. But I also think sometimes you can get into a point of trying to gain significance by being there for other people. So you feel like if you support their things and you allow them to get to their greater, then that somehow will start to reflect on you. And it's very easy to get swayed with putting your time into helping everyone and giving gifts of service, that you can sometimes ignore some things that are going on with you. And so I ended up finding out, after I hit a rough patch in my life, which at that time was, I was doing very well in my business. I had some information that was going on in terms of trying to start my life. My career was going very well. I had opportunities at that time where I was on the radio and I was engaged. And then life really hit. I started to try to do a little bit of everything, and I was constantly on the go. And then I had some trauma that happened back to back. The first thing was that my sister's husband passed away with a heart attack, and we were not prepared for that. And so he went into the hospital for a checkup. They actually sent him home, and then he passed away when he got back to the house. And so we dropped everything to go, and go to that funeral service. I came home from that funeral service, and then I was engaged again at the time, and that fiance called the wedding off. And so I had these things back to back. And by the way, that was my birthday weekend when all those things happened. So I had a trip planned and I was planning on celebrating, and then I had back to back trauma. And as a result of that, I started to see myself crumble. The person who had always been the caretaker for everybody else needed some care. And so as a result of that, I started to get into a point where I realized that I had to spend some time on myself, and I discovered the amazing power behind a no, right? Being able to say no to certain things, even if they seem like good opportunities, because I had to take some time for myself. And as a result of that, being able to distance myself from some other things, Adeyemi, that information has already been covered. So if you need to catch the replay, please go ahead. The other information is up above in the header. So it tells what the topic is, what my contact information is. Feel free to catch the replay, but I can't repeat it. I'm already into the message. Thank you. And so I found out that as a result of being able to understand how to say no to other people, I also understood how to say yes to myself. And I started to learn more about myself as I grew. And so I started to see information like the things that I was passionate about, some of the things that I was doing that were really outside of my outside of my comfort zone. I started to see that sometimes helping others can go beyond what your strengths are, and sometimes you can overextend yourself. I started to see things that I was passionate about that I had laid to the wayside to be able to be there in times of crisis and in times of desperation for other people. And so I found out that there was a lot of things that really make me happy that I didn't have a lot of time for. And so when I started to embrace more of myself and started to get to learn and understand myself, then I realized that there were some changes that I had to make, some things that I had to adjust. And I started to understand that sometimes you can do what you think is the right thing, but it may not necessarily be good for you over time. And so sometimes you can be there to help that friend, but that doesn't mean you need to take on the burden of their problem, right? And so I've learned to listen and to not give advice to people, because sometimes when you're giving advice, you think that you're helping, but that doesn't really always help people in the long run. And let me give you an example of that. So if you have a friend who might be going through some problems in their relationship, the natural inclination you have is to listen to it. You hear they're hurt, you start to feel bad about it, and then you want to fix it, right? And so you start to give them some advice on what they could do. And then that friend might continue to go through turmoil over and over and over again, and they might keep coming to you for advice. Here's the thing that I have learned. Sometimes when we try to fix problems for other people, we're not actually empowering them, we're enabling them. We actually are preventing them to learn the lessons that they might need to learn in that particular season. And we can actually stunt their growth by being there and always being there to fix the things that they need to actually learn. And so sometimes we'll start to try to pitch in and think that we're helping them along the way, but they end up having to learn those lessons the hard way because we can't be there every time that somebody has a problem. And so I've learned that sometimes it's better for me not to give advice to people, but to actually be a listening ear and to point them to what their alternatives are and let them make the decision for themselves. And so one of the things that I decided to do in my friendships is to tell them that I will not weigh in on their relationships. And the reason being is they're the ones who are living and breathing in that relationship. They have a responsibility to the person that they're in a relationship with to be able to fix that problem within that relationship or go to a professional who could help. And so oftentimes I have friends who come to me for advice because they say they like the way I think through things, but I've realized that they know their relationship better than anybody else. And so they might tell you a little bit of information and think that you're a good source to come to, but that you can be actually preventing them from actually working and reconciling those things out with their partner. And so I've learned to distance myself from certain situations and to allow people to be able to grow and mature on their own. Another thing is it gives the opportunity for God to help in the midst of that. I don't actually need to be the one to fix an issue. I can actually allow the person to benefit from some of my gifts, which might be to listen to people and to be able to pray with them, but to not fix it and allow God to be the fixer in their lives and not take on that burden myself. And so that was something that I learned. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and being able to have boundaries and being able to understand the power of no, because I think that is a good part of being true to yourself. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about is understanding what your core values are. And I cannot stress this enough as a professional. You really need to understand those 3 or 4 driving values that keep you going. What lights you up? What excites you? What are you being driven by? You need to understand those things and understand what your non-negotiables are, especially in professional situations. And I'll give you a good idea about that and explain to you how those things drive me. So when I was in the workforce, again, I was really a people pleaser. And so there was a lot of opportunities that I was involved in, and I was able to accomplish a lot of things in my career. But again, I was stretched emotionally as a result of that. And so one of the things I did was I actually went to a career coach, and one of the first introductory activities that she talked to me about was being able to identify what my core values were. And so she had this list of attributes and asked me to pick what the 4 guiding principles were for my life. If I was going to look for an ideal professional situation, what were my non-negotiables? And so the things that I realized after going through that process and thinking about it was, one, I had to have the ability to express myself. Being able to express myself was a big thing for me. My faith is very important to me. It's an integral part of what I do professionally. And so if my faith was not acknowledged, or if I felt like I was in a position where I could not express my faith, then that was non-negotiable for me. And that trickled over into my business as well. And so there's some opportunities that I turned down because they say I can't talk about God in that space. And so that information was something that was very important to me. And so the next one was that I needed to have fun and enjoy the work that I was doing. And so that was a big part of me. I needed to be able to enjoy the process. If I felt like the work had gotten to the point of taking a toll on me, that wasn't a good space for me. I needed to be actively enjoying it. And so those are things, I had to be able to learn. And then the other thing was that I needed to be able to be listened to. I had to feel like I was being listened to and that I was being respected for my expertise. And so those were things that I ended up finding out as a result of it. And so now when I'm evaluating opportunities, I have to make sure that those things are in place. Those are my core values. So if I'm in a space where I feel like, my ideas and other people's ideas are being respected, that people don't have a voice and they don't have the opportunity to speak the things that are important to them, then I don't occupy those spaces. If I feel like there's a place where my faith is not recognized, I don't occupy those spaces. If I feel like I'm not able to be listened to and be respected, I don't occupy those spaces. And again, those are things that I had to discover. And so I say, understand what your core values are and understand the things that are guiding you and those particular principles. And then what your non-negotiables are. And then be willing to say no to opportunities. This goes back to that recognizing the power of no. Be willing to say no to those things that aren't serving your greater purpose, those things that aren't in alignment with your values, those things that you can start to feel in your gut that aren't necessarily a good fit. Be willing to say no to those things, because you'll realize when you're in alignment with your values, when you're moving actively towards your purpose, and when you're doing things that feel most natural, that you'll be the strongest, your light will shine the best, and you will feel the most positive in those spaces. And so learn those things that are your core values and remember to stick to those. And so the next thing I want to talk about is understanding what your strengths are. Understand what your strengths are. Oftentimes I see a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of business professionals that really don't understand what their strengths are. And so there's constantly trying and putting a lot of effort in trying to make things work that were never a good fit for them in the first place. And so you need to be at a level where you need to understand what your strengths are and actively move in that direction. And so what are some things that might be your strengths? First, start with the way in which you like to learn. Are you a person who learns from listening? Are you an auditory learner? Are you a person who learns where you have to actually communicate that out loud? Some people need to actually be able to speak it, or they need to actually hear people speak it, and then they're able to learn that way. There's some people who need to see visuals, and so that's something else that people might need. But learn the way that you learn and be able to gain new skills and access knowledge in that way. You need to be able to understand that because sometimes if you don't understand those things, you might feel like you're not picking things up at an appropriate pace. And it might be because it's not necessarily that you can't get the skill, but it might be that because that's not really geared towards your learning style. So understand what works best for you. The next thing is understand what's comfortable in terms of what you need to do for business. What are your comfort levels? Do you need to be a person that's in an intimate environment where you're in a group, either one, with a small group of people, like, maybe less than 10? Or do you like to be a person that's in a large setting, maybe on stage? Do you like to be a person that needs to talk with people one-on-one? Are you a person who likes to talk on the phone? Are you a person who likes to engage people in writing? So maybe email and other forms of writing like blogging might be your strength. But understand what works best for you and try to occupy that space the most. Sometimes I see entrepreneurs that are so frustrated because they're trying to do things that are well outside of their comfort zone, and they're forcing those things to work. Sometimes it's better to understand that that's not your strength area and to concentrate on the things that are strong for you and slowly build up on the areas that are your weak points over time, or contract those portions of the business out. But understand that sometimes you can get yourself really frustrated and get down on yourself trying to force something to work. And it may not necessarily have ever been a good fit for you. So make sure that you understand what your strengths are. And then also understand and be comfortable with understanding what your weaknesses are, right? And so often I see entrepreneurs who are trying to be everything all at the same time. And so they end up exhausting themselves because they don't know the direction that they're headed in. They don't understand what their end game is. They don't understand what their greater purpose is. And so they just try to do a little bit of everything and hope that it sticks. And that comes across in your marketing, that comes across in your consultations with people, that comes across in your conversation, and people can see that you're scattered and all over the place. And so really be able to understand what the end game is and make sure the things that you're doing are in alignment with what the end game is. Because if you don't understand that, it's very easy to get off course. It's very easy to get distracted by what everybody else is doing. It's very easy for you to be able to get down on yourself because you're not progressing at the pace that other people are. But if you know your end game and you stick to that, then things will start to slowly fall in alignment with what that end game is. But you need to start with what the end game is. And part of that is understanding your why. Why are you driven to do this work? What's calling you to it? What is it that you're trying to gain as a result of it? Why do you want to work with that particular population of people? Those things all matter. And it will also allow you to get back on course if you start to get distracted, because you'll remember why you were called to that work in the first place and why it's so important to you. Because sometimes you'll need that encouragement, but you need to understand those things before you just get out there and start running and wondering why things aren't working. Sometimes it's that it's not where your heart is. And when your heart's not in it, that comes across when you're communicating to other people. Okay, and so the things again that we talked about is understanding the power of no, being willing to say no, and being willing to vocalize those things. Understanding your core values and being able to stick to those things. Understanding your why and being willing to stick to what that why, and understanding the greater purpose, making sure things are in alignment with your greater purpose. And then the next thing, that I wanted to talk about is confidence, right? And so confidence is a big part of being true to you. And the thing I tell people about confidence the most is confidence is coming from within. Confidence has a lot to do with you being yourself. As you start to get more comfortable with being yourself, you'll start to see that confidence come through. Oftentimes people are trying to project confidence, but it's not coming from an authentic place. They're trying to put on a row and show people that they're confident. And I'm sorry, but there's some people who can see right through that. They can see that you're putting on a row. They can see that you're trying to be the most confident in the room. And I do say that if you're in a place where you're not the most confident, it is a process. You will learn and grow in those things. Remember, every time that you start something new, it's a process to it. Take it one step at a time. What are some ways in which you can build self-confidence? The first is to make peace with who you are, where you are right now. Whatever you've dealt with in your past, make peace with that. Before you move into a new space, make peace with where you've been. And some people skip that space. They try to fast track towards something new and they forget what was going on in the past. That stuff doesn't disappear. You have to make peace with it, and you have to be willing to move on from it. But you can't just act like it never happened, because it will resurface. So make peace with where you've been, and then be able to deal with where you are. Then make sure again that you know what your end game is, right? And so you understand who you are now and where you're trying to head. And then also, don't apologize for who you are to other people. I often see people are saying, well, I'm very emotional, and I'm sorry, that I'm so emotional. I'm sorry that, I do these things. I'm sorry that I do this. And it's not to say that you shouldn't care about other people, but don't let their opinion sway you in every direction, because none of us are going to be liked by everyone. That's just the reality of it. People are different. Some people are going to like you. Some people are not going to like you so much. And that's okay. Be willing to be who you are, even in the face of opposition. Sometimes what you can learn from people who might be opposed to the things that you have to say, or who may not want to be connected to you, is that you start to weed out those people, and you start to welcome in and make room for people who are for you. You're not going to be for everybody else. Your style is not going to be for everybody else. Your personality is not going to be for everybody else. But you will find that tribe, that group of people that you resonate with. And those people are exactly who you want to be around. You want to be around like-minded people. You want to be around people who appreciate your personality. You want to be around people with positive energy. You want to be around people who celebrate you, who are proud of you, who are happy for you and your success. Those are the types of people you want to be around. So don't be opposed to letting go of those people who aren't a good fit for you. It makes room for good things to come in. And so you have to be willing to let go of some things and be willing to be yourself, no matter what the consequences of that is, in order for you to make room for the things that are a good fit for you. But be willing to be yourself, even if it is a rough spot sometimes. Okay. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the strength of being yourself in promoting your brand. Now, I cannot tell you enough how easy it is to get off course in your brand, listening to what everybody else is saying. There's so many people trying to pour out advice to you. There's so many gurus on the internet. There's so many people who are trying to start a new trend, and everybody starts to jump on board when they see that something's working for other people. And so they put all this money into it, and they put all this effort and energy into things, and then they're shocked that it may not necessarily be a good fit. That's because there's something for everybody. There's a gift that you were given personally. There's something on the inside of you that you were gifted naturally to be able to do. Find the thing that's the easiest for you to do and that brings you the most joy, and try to monetize that thing. Sometimes what ends up happening with entrepreneurs is they try to copy everyone else's formula, and that will not necessarily, there we go, my words, work for you. Oftentimes the strength is being able to understand what comes natural to you and being able to do it in your own natural voice, your own natural style. There's something about the way in which you deliver things that is going to set you apart from other people. We don't all have the same story. We don't all have the same past. We don't all have the same gifts and abilities, and we don't always have the same strengths. And so there's something about the way in which you were given that is going to resonate with a different audience than other people. So learn to find the strength in being yourself and understanding and cultivating your own voice and delivering it in the fashion that's most comfortable for you. I have found that when I'm speaking, what ends up setting me apart from other speakers is that I'm being myself. It's not necessarily just the knowledge that I've been able to acquire with the diverse skill set that I got from the workforce. It's also the way in which I deliver the content. I'm coming from an authentic place. I'm saying it in the way that makes the most sense to me. I'm not trying to put on airs. I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. And so people start to appreciate that because they realize that it's coming from an authentic place. They start to build up trust in the things that I say because they know that I'm being myself, and they appreciate that. And they feel like because I'm being that myself, that they feel more comfortable being their selves. And so they share more openly with me because they respect and they trust the things that I'm saying, because I'm not trying to put on a show. I'm not trying to put on a front. I'm not trying to portray something that I'm not. And that resonates with a lot of people because they see so many people who are trying to be a bigger personality than what they are, that are trying to follow along with what everybody else is doing, that are trying to jump on the next trend. And sometimes you need to find out the strengths that are on the inside. And I will tell you this, sometimes the things that you are criticized for the most are going to end up being your strengths. And let me give you some examples of that. So when I was younger, people used to always talk to me about how loud I spoke. That I was always really loud. I would get in trouble about that all the time. They would say that my laughter was way too loud and that the things that I found funny were obnoxious. They would joke on me about the fact that I was so nerdy and geeky. They would always tell me that I wasn't going to be able to connect with people, that I wasn't going to be able to fit in different environments, and that I really needed to tone things down because my personality was so big, and that I had to be more extroverted. All of these different things. And what I found out is as I got a little bit older and started to find myself and to understand myself, but those things were the things that actually did quite the opposite. It actually did connect me to other people. People actually did appreciate those things. You know, that obnoxious laughter actually is something that people remember most from my speaking gigs. They say my laughter is contagious. They think that it's quite endearing, those little flaws that I have. And they enjoy my geekiness because my geekiness is what allows me to be able to learn a lot of things and to have content-packed videos. And so people really appreciate the breadth of knowledge that I have, and they understand that they can go to me as a resource because they know that if I know something about that particular thing or subject, then I'm able to pull directly from my brain and to give them a large amount of content. And some people really appreciate that skill. And then the idea of being more extroverted. I realized that was not something that I was trying to do. I didn't want to be more extroverted. I wanted to find the strength in introversion. And so I found that when I'm doing small groups with people, or when I'm doing coaching sessions, or I'm doing intimate gatherings at events, that I'm able to connect with people on a deeper level because of my strength of introversion. I have deeper conversations. I don't do small talk. I'm able to get to people a little bit on a more emotional level than some other speakers might be able to, because we can have that conversation. And I'm not above the audience. I'm not speaking above their level. I'm actually speaking directly to them at the level of their understanding. And so that ended up being a strength for me. And so sometimes when people are criticizing you for those things, you have to let those things roll off your back. It may not necessarily be a fit for the environment that you're in, but that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Learn to know the difference. Just because somebody else doesn't appreciate you for who you are doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It may actually mean that you're not a good fit for that environment. You're not a good fit for that friendship. You're not a good fit for that particular person who wants to be in relationship with you. But learn to appreciate you, flaws and all, because sometimes those things are what endear us to other people. And so I wanted to talk about those things because I think sometimes there's way too much pressure in the marketplace to be everything but ourselves, to change this, to readjust this, to copy this particular formula, to follow this guru. And I think sometimes people are missing the thing that's the easiest, which is to be yourself. Be yourself. Do what comes natural. Do what comes easy. Do what brings you joy. Do what you delight in. Do what naturally bonds you and connects you to people. And stop trying so hard to be something that you're not. And you can actually find out that there's more strength in actually being yourself. And you start to find that your path starts to come into alignment when you're being more of yourself. And when you stop assuming so many things, trying to be everything that you're not. And so I hope this is helpful. I'm sorry there's a little bit of a slowdown on the video. There we go. I hope that this has been helpful. For people who are new to me, this is the Dream, Do, Done series, which allows me to go along and walk alongside you while you're trying to grow into your dreams through the year. We have a video each day, which gives you another thing to think about or an action step to move you from dreaming to doing. We oftentimes get messages about how we have to have big dreams, how we have to step outside of our comfort zone, how we have to jump and leap into them. And oftentimes what is happening is they don't teach you how to do that. how to go from dreaming to doing, how to change your circle, how to do things differently, how to approach a situation, how to chart your success. And so I wanted to give you some practical tips of things that you can look at to keep you focused on your dreams and moving forward, because I believe that being able to accomplish big dreams is more about small steps in the right direction than necessarily big leaps. You can leap, and then what happens? You're free falling, right? And so I want to be able to provide some implementable steps to keep you moving forward. And I hope that this series has been helpful. If you need to catch up on the series, that information is up above in the header. If you need to reach out to me, my contact information is again up above in the header. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss my live videos, go ahead and subscribe. If you like this video series, please go ahead and let me know by hitting the thumbs up or letting me know below. If you have a question for me, put it down in the message section below, or feel free to PM me. For people, again, who are new to me, my name is Coach Shanelle. I'm a success coach and a speaker. I've been an advocate for women entrepreneurs since 2009. I'm wholeheartedly committed to your success and providing access to quality resources and training which allow you to move closer to your dreams, to move outside of your comfort zone and reach towards some new things to move you closer and allow you to actually achieve your dreams and not just keep thinking about them. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close out. I hope that your day will be wonderful and that your week will be great. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.